Hello ladies and gents, Mike again on another Lightroom how-to video. You'll see I've jumped, if you look at the left hand side of the screen, to my main catalogue here, mainly because what I wanted to do was talk today about ratings, stars, picks, folders and collections. This is probably the last piece of specific organisation talk we need to cover, but it will become clear later on in the series why these things are important to consider. Whether you decide to use them or not is obviously up to you. In the last video we imported a number of images, and what do you do next? Having got them into Lightroom, onto your computer, and registered in the Lightroom database through importing them there, you then need to decide how you're going to handle them. Most people would want to go through the images to decide which images they want to keep, which ones they may want to delete, and which are worthy of further attention to develop, to work on, to maybe be the better images from the shoot that you've taken. For my own purposes, I use the star system in Lightroom, which is very simple. You can assign a rating of between 1 and 5 stars, or no stars at all, to each image, and use that to fine-tune the number of pictures that are presented to you at any point. My method is to use 1 star for images I'm going to keep, 2 stars for images that I'm going to keep but I want to do some development work on, and 3 stars for the images that are perhaps the better of the set and the ones that I've finished working on. I use 4 and 5 stars for things like competition entries that are perhaps a little bit above the average, and 5 stars for maybe competition winners or the real best of the best if I just wanted to find half a dozen out of the 26,300 images that I've got in my Lightroom catalogue, as you see on the left there. I also wanted to talk a little bit about moving images around between folders, creating new folders and so on. Hopefully I'll keep this fairly quick, and if you've been following so far, I hope you've been trying out Lightroom on your own installation, and even if you haven't done anything specific with it, just test and play with it to become familiar with what's going on. So on the left here is a folder pane, which is showing a representation of what you will also see in Windows Explorer or Mac Finder. It's important within Lightroom, once the images have been recorded, imported into Lightroom, that you do all of the movement of images from Lightroom so Lightroom can keep a track of them. You can, if you wish, create new folders. Here I've got a folders for models underneath the October 18 on the left there. And if you need to create a new folder, at the top of the folders pane there you will see a plus. Simply by clicking on there you can add a subfolder or a new folder. So I can either create another subfolder within models, within October 18, within 2018 and so on. I can also tell it to show folders that are in subfolders. Now before that trips you up completely, here I'm just seeing the model shoot images, which is the lowest level of folder. If I click on the October 18 folder, I'm seeing other things from October, and I'm showing the subfolder of models. If I go here and stop showing subfolders in subfolders, I won't see the model shoots in the October master folder because that is a subfolder. I prefer to see all of them. Creating a new folder is simple, and if you wish to drag and drop images from one folder to another, it's simply a question of moving them like that. so you can organize your images how you wish in your folder structure, and as long as you do that movement of the image file from one folder to another within Lightroom, Lightroom keeps a track of where it is. If you try and move that image in the Finder or Windows Explorer, as soon as you move it here, Windows will lose track of it. And Lightroom will lose track of it, and that will cause you problems. It will cause you to have, if you can see on the top of this image here, a little exclamation mark, which means if I hover over this, there's some issues to sort out. It will also be showing that with a little triangle if the image can't be found if you've moved it elsewhere. The simple way of going through and adding a rating to an image, these have all been rated so I won't do it in this demonstration, but for me I do a couple of things. If I'm looking at an image, I want to see it, to decide whether I'm keeping it or rejecting it, I want to see it larger than I can see it in these thumbnails. And although I can, in the bottom right here, drag the thumbnails fairly large, and I'm working on a 27-inch iMac, if you're working on a smaller screen, and even on this large screen, I prefer to look at it image at a time. To add a rating, there's a menu item here, Photo, Set Rating, and the keystrokes shown here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a keyboard shortcut. Just by using that keystroke, you will add 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars to this image, or by hitting 0, you'll remove the rating from it. You can also set a flag through there, and that shows you that you can flag an image by using the P key, unflag it using the U key, and reject it using the X key. For me, I go through and I either rate an image I'm going to keep as 1, or I flag it as a reject for later deletion. So, and I use the keyboard shortcut. The other thing I do is I make sure the tick is beside this auto advance. It just makes things a little bit quicker, and you'll see how in a minute. So this image, if I click on it, I can zoom in to check whether it's focused or not. At this size, that looks reasonably well in focus, but I was taking it in ambient light at a very high shutter speed, as you see here, a very high ISO and a slowish shutter speed, 1/5 of a second. I hadn't opened the aperture up enough, it was f7.1, so it was a slowish shutter speed, 1/5 of a second, and I wasn't holding it particularly clearly, I was just grabbing a shot, so it's out of focus. To zoom in, I just click on the image. You'll see as I hover over that, the cursor changes to a little magnifying glass. I can also use a key Z, which will zoom into the point underneath the cursor. So I can check quickly, is that acceptable? Probably not. I had rated it 1, I'm now going to rate it 0, and immediately Lightroom moves on, auto advances to the next image. At the bottom left you'll see it's now gone to the next image. This image was one I was just using for colour management. I'm keeping it because I might want to use it again for colour management for those lighting conditions. I'll just use the keyboard shortcut, the keyboard right arrow key to move to the next. Is Dave in focus? A little bit of motion blur, but quite an interesting expression. I might just keep it just a 1 star. If you don't want to use the keyboard, you can add stars and reject items along the bottom of the screen here by clicking here. So I can click on that one to get rid of it, or I can go back and click on it again to add and auto move on. So very quickly, that's adding those on. Once I've rated all the images, I go back to the grid, G, and I can then decide to filter those images, having rejected those I want to reject and pick those I want to pick. I can now just show myself, according to the attribute, those images that are rated greater than or equal to 1 star. So that hides all the no star images. I could also say rating is less than or equal to 1 star, or no stars at all by taking the ticks off. So it's less than and equal to nothing. Just this one that I rated with no flags, no stars. So it was blurry. I want to get rid of it. I can add a X to that by either clicking on the image and setting the flag rejected, or I could have pressed the X key. When I now go back to the grid with the G and remove the filters off, you can now see that image has been greyed out, it's been rejected. I'll delete that. And how do I delete that? Because I'm not going to keep it. Command and delete brings up this dialog asking me whether I just want to remove it from Lightroom, cancel the operation altogether, or delete it from disk. I want to delete it from the disk. That will remove it from Lightroom, delete it from the disk, and I won't have to worry about it ever again. So that's a quick and easy way of fine-tuning and filtering the images that you want to work on. I can then, you see one here with 2 stars, I can filter by the attribute of 2 stars or more. So all the 2-star images, which are the ones I want to work on, are there in that folder for me to look at now. So now I can simply go at a later date to a develop module and just look at my 2-star images, do whatever development work I want to do on them before they're finished. Next video I'll be talking about collections, and after that we'll move on towards development. Thanks for listening. Let me know as always if you've got any questions or comments.